Expand our imagination.
Justification for being what you're going to say.
Welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm John Dickerson. Next week, House Republicans hope to make good on their promise to repeal health care reform. They've got the votes, but that doesn't mean Democrats are going to roll over. We'll speak with Vermont Congressman Peter Welch, who's leading the Democrats' effort to make a stand. Then we'll go to our CBS News political panel with CBS News senior producer Ward Sloane and senior political producer Rob Hendin to figure out what to make of this first big week in the new year. But first, Congressman Peter Welch, who joins me on the telephone from Capitol Hill. Welcome, Congressman.
Good to be with you.
Thank you for being with us. Now, this repeal vote is going to go ahead. The Republicans look like they have the votes they need. So what can Democrats do?
Well, we can fight it. I mean, we've got to take a stand and defend the health care provisions in there that make a big difference to the American people. You know, the Republicans, give them credit, they beat us good in the campaign. They ran against health care. They said they were going to repeal it, and now they're doing it. But we've got to point out what is in it, because they've decided to do this wholesale repeal that includes things that are wildly popular, like insurance reforms. And they're trying to act as though that is not going to have an impact on real people, real families in their district and in mine. Let me be specific. Under current law, if you have kids getting out of high school that get an entry-level job, $10 an hour, that comes without health care. You can be on your parent policy. Or if you've got a sister who's got cancer, you can help her buy insurance and not be denied because of her pre-existing condition. Or your folks, let's say, really trying hard to take care of themselves, they're on Medicare, they get free preventive care. And if we're going to bend the cost curve, everybody says you have to have access to free preventive care so you get that cancer screening.
So, Congressman, let me just, before we delineate the rest of what's in the bill, but what actually can be done other than listing these provisions to stop what the Republicans are going to be doing next week?
Well, my view is we've got to make them own the consequences of what it is they're doing, and there are real consequences. See, what's happening, as I see it, is that they ran against Obamacare. That meant a million different bad things to a million different people. But if you get specific, and now really we're beyond the campaign, and it's policy that is going to have consequences, and I think the Democrats have to defend those provisions particularly that have such popularity across the country. And a lot of those center on the insurance reforms that were long-sought victories by the American people. What is happening with the repeal is that you're literally throwing all of those out, and you're turning the keys back to the insurance companies. And as people get to know this in its reality, as opposed to simply an Obamacare epithet in of the campaign, they're going to start asking themselves questions about what it is the Republicans are doing, whether what they're doing is radical and irresponsible.
Today, Congressman John Boehner was sending around, or his office anyway, was sending around a new Gallup poll that says 48% of the country would like health care to be repealed. There's only 40% that wants it to stay. So what do you do in the face of those numbers? You've also said that the Democrats did a lousy job selling health care during the process of putting it together. So how do you change those numbers around?
Well, 65 of us proposed amendments to the Rules Committee, where we were asking for an up or down vote on many of the different provisions in the health care bill. And the Republicans have promised that they will give us open rules so we can have up or down votes. And now they're having a closed rule so that we're not going to be given that opportunity. But my goal is to continue to point out that, hey, if we repeal it, it means we're not given an opportunity to let our voters know where we stand on the pre-existing condition question, the free preventive care provision, and so on. So the Republicans have the power, they have the might, but that doesn't mean we should just roll over. And I think the more we focus with laser-like intensity on some of the concrete provisions that are broadly popular, it's a different question for people. Do you want to repeal Obamacare? A lot of people say yes, because it has some abstract meaning to them. Do you want to let insurance companies deny you because of a pre-existing condition? Overwhelming opposition.
Let me ask you a question, Congressman, about this power point you made, which is that Republicans do have the power. And yet, Speaker Boehner, in his big speech, said that he could promise the minority openness. So he promised on the one hand openness, but as you point out, the rules for debating this repeal amendment don't have an opportunity for Democrats to participate. So are Republicans acting in good faith in your view?
Well, they're not keeping their promises. I mean, number one, they said they wanted to deal with fiscal responsibility. And the Congressional Budget Office, which is the neutral umpire, says their repeal bill will cost $230 billion onto the deficit. And they're trying to simply wave that away as though that's, some unsupported opinion. So they're violating their own pledge, number one. Number two, they have a cut-go rule where if they have legislation that's going to cost money, they have to offset it by cutting elsewhere. They're disregarding that promise in this legislation. And number three, they're denying 65 of my colleagues the opportunity to have up or down votes on some of these specific provisions. So they're violating their own promise and assurance of an open Congress. So, yes, in 2 days, it's 3 broken promises.
But is this just politics? People break promises all the time, or are they acting in bad faith?
Well, I'm not going to say bad faith because I want to give us an opportunity to see if we can to work things out. What I'm concerned about is the consequences, the actual consequences. What does it mean to a family? And I've got these folks in Vermont. Their kid just got out of high school or college. They got an entry-level job, no health care. They're on that parent policy right now. The repeal means they're off. Folks with the pre-existing conditions, they're going to lose their access to health care. This is what I'm concerned about. How does this affect a family? How does it affect that kid who's getting started in the labor force? And how does this affect taxpayers if the first bill the Republican Congress passes is going to add $230 billion to the deficit? A lot of the stuff you watch and people throw their hands up, it is politics. Now, it has consequences, and that's what I'm really concerned about.
Let me ask you as a final question, Congressman, you were in power, now you're not. What does it feel like being back now under this new situation?
Well, I liked it the other way better.
But what's it like? I mean, the rooms are smaller, the position is different.
Well,
was it that easy to change?
That's the least of it. I mean, when you're in the minority, you have a different job, but you have the same responsibility. And my view is that Democrats should be doing 2 things. One, whenever there's a way that we can work together with the Republican majority to get things done, to get a better energy policy, to have a sustainable budget, we should try to do it. We should work with them. But when they cross a line and do things that we sincerely believe are really bad for American families or American national security, then we should fight very hard and let the American people see what the differences are, because at the end of the day, it's their country and their future, and they've got to make the decision.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right, now let's switch to our political roundtable with Ward Sloane and Rob Hendin. Ward, I want to talk to you. First, we had 2 things happen this week. We have the new Congress, we have Boehner taking his role, but we also had some changes at the White House. They were not silent this week. So put the week in perspective for us. I mean, who won this first week of 2011?
Well, I think it's a tie. I think the Republicans came in with a lot of fanfare. They elected their new speaker. He was smart in that he was brief. I was shocked at how long Nancy Pelosi went on for.
She spoke just 30 words less than Boehner, even though it was his day.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things. I think Boehner acquitted himself well. He only cried twice that I counted on Wednesday during his inaugural, or whatever we call that, installation. But I think the Republicans did run into a little bit of a buzzsaw over the rules and the issue of openness. But, I'm thinking back, every new party who takes over the House, from '94 to the Democrats back to the Republicans, they all promised openness, and it never appeared.
Right.
So
it's almost
I don't think any Democrat is surprised by that.
It's almost one of the rituals they have to go through.
Right.
Both parties were sort of changing arguments. Rob, I want to get your sense of what you thought Boehner, as Ward mentioned, it was a short speech. Newt Gingrich went on for 6,000 words, Boehner just 1,300. What did you get? If he's kicking off the tone for this new Congress, what did you hear from him?
I think the tone that he's really kicking out is the austerity idea. And you go back to Newt Gingrich and remember the contract with America, this huge fanfare on the Capitol steps and all these people standing out there. And Boehner was very muted. And I think that's what they wanted to do. He's not the center of attention. You talk about Nancy Pelosi being kicking, dragging, and screaming, holding on to the gavel. That's not what the Republicans want to do. That's not what Boehner wants to do. He is taking charge as the Republicans and giving it, as he said, the people's house, letting it, it's really going to be a muted leadership. He's not going to be the focus.
It was amazing when he started, his first big image and analogy was to Ash Wednesday, the Catholic tradition where they say you are come from dust and to dust you will return. That's not exactly lifting rhetoric about a new way. It's a kind of, it's very austere.
Yeah.
But it may be apropos to a zero-sum game kind of politics that this town is going to see, I think, in the next 2 years, where Republicans will put forward all these ideas, starting right away with this ridiculous health care repeal measure that they know will go nowhere. And I think that's what's going to happen for the next 2 years.
Are Democrats going to find their voice now that they're in the minority? I mean, you heard Congressman Welch, you know, it does give them, his argument is they can focus on the good stuff now in this new position they're in. When they were trying to build the health care bill, everything got, you know, Republicans were successful in finding the bad stuff and talking about it. Well, now that Democrats are in the minority, are they going to find their voice either on health care or just in general?
Well, the interesting point is, who would that be? I don't know that Nancy Pelosi can really speak for the party going forward, and I don't think that Harry Reid is an effective speaker. So the real issue is, can Barack Obama find his voice and speak for his own program? You know, and the congressman was making the point about how people like all the individual components of the health care, but not the overall health care bill. Why is it coming down to that now? I mean, why wasn't that better explained to the American people? It seems to me the Democrats have really done a very, very bad job, because when you do get into the specifics, you know, nobody's going to say, oh yeah, I don't want to put my kid on my health care insurance up until he's 26.
Rob, the president has a new approach to this new world, and he got some new help this week. He named Bill Daley will be his chief of staff and also a spokesman, while David Axelrod goes to Chicago. Robert Gibbs decided he's leaving this week to go. So there's a lot of shifts at the White House. What does it all mean?
Well, you know, we talked about earlier before Christmas, the lame duck session was Obama 2.0. I think what you're seeing right now is White House 2.0. They've gone from the battles within their own party in Capitol Hill to pass healthcare, to pass financial reform, and now they're looking at 2012, and they're looking at rebuilding the economy. They realize that they need a good economy to win re-election in 2 years, and so you have Bill Daley, who is a very good spokesperson, who has extremely strong ties to the business community, formerly with J.P. Morgan, was on the board of Boeing and some of these companies. And with the new person, with Gibbs gone, they'll have a soon-to-be-named person at the podium in the White House briefing room. So they're really going to go and try to sell their policies to the American people, to the small business owner themselves. They really try to take the fight beyond Washington. And I think that's what you're going to see starting with this new team.
One of the things that was striking about picking Daley is that in December of 2009, he wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post and said, basically, the left of the Democratic Party has to realize that the landscape has changed and you're not going to get what you want, which sort of matched up with the message the president was sending during the lame duck Congress when he made that deal with Republicans. So there's a shift going on here, as Rob mentioned. But you've watched White Houses before. Do these shifts happen as neatly as White Houses would like? You change some people, you put a new message out there, and everything's fine?
Well, you know, I was thinking, you know, one of the most famous White House switches was Jim Baker and Don Regan, and that happened because Don Regan couldn't get along with the First Lady. And then you go to Clinton, he seemed to have a raft of chiefs of staff. And, you know, really the bottom line is the chief of staff can only be as good as the president lets him be. I mean, let's face it, it's Barack Obama who drives this. It's not going to be just the chief of staff. It's not going to just be the press secretary. If the president can't set his priorities and keep them straight, there's no way the chief of staff or the press secretary can do that. It's got to come from the top. Now, the thing I like about Daley is that he's a Rahm Emanuel fighter without the missing finger. I mean, he knows how to talk to people. And you know, I remember I was on the receiving end of a phone call in the 2000 election when he said, "Hey, you know what? This isn't over. We're unconceding." That was his word.
He worked for Al Gore.
That's right. He was Al Gore's campaign chairman, and you know, and then went about his business. And I don't think he has the need to be as public and as widely seen as Rahm Emanuel does. He's not from that liberal wing of the party. You know, Rahm was schooled under Nancy Pelosi in a lot of ways. So, you know, and I think all you need to know is the Chamber of Commerce loves Bill Daley. Right. And that's got to be a win for Barack Obama.
Chamber of Commerce loves him, unions not so much. Final question to both of you, and I'll start with you, Rob, which is the next thing we're all looking forward to is the State of the Union, which is a tricky thing because it turns out sometimes it's a laundry list. On the other hand, as we've been discussing, the president is in the middle of trying to reposition himself here. So the question is, Rob, what's he going to say? What's the message people are going to leave that State of the Union with when it comes?
I think what the president's going to do in the State of the Union is really lay out the priorities of the country in terms of spending and budget. He really has the opportunity to get in front of the Republicans on the cutting and reducing the debt issue. And he's going to go up and say, and he started to do this a little bit at the end of last year, we need an education system. We need to be competitive. Are we willing to sacrifice American education system because we want to save some money in the budget? Are we willing to sacrifice innovation, research and development? He's really going to try to say, what should our values be and what should we spend on those values? And to try to get ahead of this issue of when the Republicans are saying, let's just cut X number of dollars from the budget. I think you see with Sperling coming in, you see with Jack Lew coming in, they're going to really focus on cutting the budget, but they're going to cut it their way. And the White House is going to get in front of what spending means to the average person.
It's a good point about Jack Lew and Sperling and Daley. They all veterans of the Clinton administration. The last time a Democratic president had to fight with a Republican Congress to cut the budget, get things in line. So is it going to work?
Well, we'll see. I think they have to, you know, one problem is the message, because it's hard to say America's best days are ahead of us while you're cutting everything back. That seems to be counterintuitive. The other thing that I had heard was that they were going to dust off the old Bowles Simpson
plan, right?
Plan and get down to business that way. And make some of those tough choices. And no doubt there's going to be tough choices. So
well, that's the thing. It's going to be like math homework every morning for the American people. I mean, all anybody's talking about, Boehner said the same thing in his investiture remarks. You know, hard choices, sacrifice, pain. Barack Obama's going to be trying to get reelected. And in theory, his only message is going to be pain, cutting, unpleasantness. That doesn't seem like a great way to... No,
it doesn't, but I think his best friend going forward in getting reelected will be the Republican field. I mean, in a lot of ways, he'll be dealt a hand that looks pretty much like the hand Bill Clinton was dealt, which is they don't have a lot of very strong candidates out there. And I might say, you know, it's early in the game, but if I'm Barack Obama, I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, and proof of that is the fact that this week we had rumors about Rudy Giuliani maybe getting in after a disastrous race in 2008, and even Michelle Bachmann, the congresswoman. So apparently, if you're a Republican, you want to run for president. Thank you both very much for being with us. And thanks all of you for being with us. Please watch Washington Unplugged each day at 12:30 right here on CBSNews.com. I'm John Dickerson. Have a great weekend.